Welcome back to the Contact Onsite podcast. This podcast is dedicated to the innovators and the pioneers shaping the future of the construction industry. Today, I'm excited to host Leah Royalty. Leah is a key member of Haskell's innovation and corporate venture capital team. She helps identify and evaluate emerging technologies and startup solutions advancing the construction industry. She connects between the innovative ideas to real-world applications by partnering with project teams, leading pilot programs, and collaborating with tech developers on research and development initiatives that address critical construction and design challenges to drive improvements at Haskell. Leah, what a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome to the Contact Onsite podcast. Tell me about Haskell, about yourself and your role there.
So I am an innovation strategist at Haskell. I've been there for about 3.5 years now. Basically, I run a lot of the pilot programs that we do with different technology. Started off with more design software and now on the construction side as well. It's been a great journey so far, not what I expected to do coming out of school, but I've loved every moment of it. It's been great, and I've loved the company that I've worked for. Okay. So Haskell Design Build Construction Company, we're known for our consumer packaged goods market. We build a lot of projects for food and beverage clients, and they love it because it's turnkey solution for them. So they have one contract. We'll design the process line for them, and then we'll actually build the facility as well. So at the end of it, they're ready to make money on their product. And Preston Haskell was one of the founders of Haskell, and he's always been known for his innovative spirit. He has one of the biggest modern art collections in the world, I think. So he has all kinds of art all over the office, which is really cool to see. And he actually was one of the founders of DBIA, so Design Build Institute of America. So that's kind of how, just the foundation origin of Haskell really got started, and that culture of innovation started at the company. And then in 2018 is when they founded DisruptTech, so the corporate venture capital arm of Haskell. And at the time, no one was really, there wasn't too many people doing this. And so they were really smart and brought in someone from M&A, which is Cutler Knupp, and then they hired someone internally from our VDC department, Hamza Shimbari. And them together were incredible for the group because we had someone that knew investments from outside of the industry, and then we had someone who knew what was up and coming in the construction tech space. So they were kind of like origin for the group, and then they've had quite a few people, I think, come and go within the group, but George and I have been here for about 3.5 years, and he's been more on the robotics hardware side, a lot of development projects. I have a couple software development projects, which are awesome, and then I'm more on the pilot side.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background. So what do you study? Right? And what does an innovation strategist do?
Yeah, so I went to school at the University of Florida and did my undergrad in interior design. I had an internship at an architecture firm in Atlanta, which I loved. It was honestly a dream job. They did boutique hospitality, so beautiful hotels, everything was custom, but I still spent that whole summer on a computer, and I wanted a lot more face time. I loved my site visits. So I went back to school and I did a grad program at Florida for construction management. And during that program, I had an internship on the project management side, which I loved. I got to go on site. I was talking to subcontractors. I was really a part of the building process, which was great. And then I also had an internship on the VDC side with another general contractor where I was laser scanning. It was a big pharmaceutical job. So they needed a lot of coordination in order for it to get built fast and on time. So I was helping with that. I had some really good experience from that in college and thought I wanted to go the project management route when I graduated. And I got connected. I knew Haskell well. I went to school in Florida. Haskell's pretty well known in Florida. And then Hamza actually had reached out and saw my background and saw what I knew the current tech stack in the industry for design and construction. I knew what everybody used, and I knew what wasn't working as well. So when they came to me and they said, we're looking at things 7 to 10 years down the line, we think you'd be great to help us do that. So that's when I joined the Haskell team.
Okay. So 7 to 10 years down the line, what's going to happen to the industry?
Hopefully it'll look completely different then than it does now. We find that we may have introduced a technology to the company 2 years ago that's just now getting adopted. So we find it takes a lot longer for things to get moving in this industry than others, or than we would like to see. But that's part of the process, and we've enjoyed it.
Okay, so we're discussing 7 to 10 years from now. We also kind of gave like a timeline, like as an example, right? Obviously not everything, but 2 years, right? It could take sometimes 2 years to get a technology actually operating.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what goes into that? Why does it take so much time?
Definitely the process that we do today, we as an industry-wide, is pretty standard. A lot of companies do things maybe slightly different, but everyone's very comfortable with how they're doing things. And I get it. I know change management is hard. I don't love when my workflow is disrupted, but the other industries have adopted technology so much faster. With the medical industry, we're doing surgery with robots, and we're still having people die on our construction sites. So it's something that I think now is known that the change needs to happen. Everybody knows this. It's just about how to do it. And people are, again, really comfortable with how they've been doing things, and they just don't want to change. They're able to get their jobs done, they're building them on time, they're building them to budget, and why change that?
Okay, so we're talking about kind of what you describe as a legacy industry that knows it needs to go through some change. For some reason, a lot of people are pushing back, right? And maybe the question's how could it get done? How to do it, just like you're describing. From your standpoint, how do you do it?
Yeah, so we are pretty strategic with how we go about running our pilots, so how we introduce new technology to the business. It's emerging, so it's not something that's been vetted internally yet. A lot of it is workflow oriented, so you have to change what you do and how you do it. And in the beginning, we were pushing these new tools on them and really trying to kind of force them to use these new tools. And that didn't work well, as you'd expect. So we've learned that we have to put it out there and let them think that it was their idea. And then they'll come to you and say, hey, I've seen this, or I saw this at a conference, or I saw this in the monthly newsletter that you post. How can you help me implement this on my project? And then that's where, when that happens, that when we kind of when we have that origin, it makes it a lot easier for us to actually implement the solution. So we can go from there, and we have a very structured process. We create an implementation plan where we write what success looks like with the project team at the end of the pilot. And then we have regular check-ins once everybody's onboarded and trained, whether it be on job sites or physically in person for our designers. It kind of can go both ways. And then we'll collect surveys, collect feedback throughout the whole pilot. And at the end, we write the report stating, do we recommend to scale for enterprise rollout, or do we maybe need a new solution that's solving the same problem? We might determine another problem by using this solution. It can go a lot of different ways, but we try to be really organized with how we collect that feedback throughout the pilot so we can give a great recommendation at the end.
Okay, so let's maybe even first of all, thanks, this is really interesting, but let's take maybe a step back. What leads you to even look or choose a technology that you guys are looking at? What's that process look like?
So we do a little bit of workflow mapping, and that is part of the residency program that George runs. We'll take different people from different departments and work really closely with them to define their workflow. And when they are mapping out what they do day to day and who is doing what handoff process, we've been able to identify bottlenecks that maybe they hadn't identified before. And when we do these, we're able to say, okay, well, these workflows aren't working for this reason, and with what we know, like the Disrupt Tech team knows, we have solutions in our back pocket that are known to solve for these problems. So we're able to actually couple that and say, hey, let's pilot this and see if this works to solve what you need. It doesn't always work that easily, but that's kind of the idea with the residency program.
Okay, so there's a residency program where you're doing workflow mapping, right? And you're trying to identify areas or issues that happen across the workflow that you could solve.
Yes.
Right? So effectively, you're starting with the problem, right? And so the next step is, okay, we identified an issue in the workflow. Now let's dig in and find a solution.
Yep.
So what does that look like?
So solution, that seems to be a little bit easier than identifying the problem. That's the hardest part. We have so many solutions in this space. So once
I have to ask, do you think there's a lack of solutions in this space?
I don't think a lack of solutions. There are quite a few solutions that are all trying to solve for similar problems. I don't know if any of them have gotten it perfect just yet, but again, it's like a workflow thing that has to change in the field in order to adopt that new technology. And everyone has a little bit of a different way of adoption, which is maybe works better or doesn't work as good for some people.
Okay, so we started with the problem we identified in the workflow. Now we moved on, we're looking for a solution. You're saying it's much easier even because a lot of times, at least from my experience, if you have a problem, the solution is pretty much calling out at you, right? And you're describing some of the challenges when it comes to the solution might be that they're not perfect, right? And that has a lot to do with the adoption. So what does the next stages look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we'll present some of our ideas for solutions to the actual project team, and we'll say, hey, this is what we know. We've worked closely with them before, or maybe we haven't, but something we're keeping an eye on, somebody that we really would like to test. And it just depends on which project it is, what market it is, where it's located, that decides if it's the best fit for them. But again, we leave it up to them to pick. Let them pick the solution. And so they'll decide which one they want to move forward with. We'll schedule a demo call. Sometimes we'll do demos with a couple of them with the project team. And that again helps them be really they're the ones that make the decision to go forward using the solution, which has been huge in helping the pilot move along. But after that, then if they pick one that they like, then we'll start with that and we'll do the implementation plan, determine the timeline, so how long we want to test this for. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's the full length of the project, and then we'll define what success looks like. So that would be maybe saving you 30% of administrative time doing administrative tasks, or whatever, we'll come up with it together with the team. And then we go forward with onboarding and training, trying to get that in person if we can. And from there, that's when pretty much the pilot's coasting for the most part. And then we just have regular check-in calls, collect surveys, feedback throughout the pilot, and then determine kind of next steps at the end.
So really, we're starting off with that problem. We come up when looking through the workflows, realizing that there's a bunch of solutions, and kind of transformationally, you're letting, rather than trying to push, right, what
Yes.
a lot of the industry is doing, trying to push certain solutions on teams, you have a process where you let the teams come and get exposure to the technology and create pull from their end. Like, we're excited about this.
Yep.
Yeah, and then from there, you basically put in different measurements for what success would look like.
Right.
And then you're saying it coasts. So what's like the biggest mistakes? Like we have, thank you for, this is a really comprehensive kind of breakdown, right? An insight into how you guys look at technology and an adoption process. What are people getting wrong? What are they not doing? That's, that's maybe holding them back.
Yeah, definitely On the, I don't know, there's a couple things I could say here. I guess number one is the push, for sure. I think a lot of people will push new solutions down an enterprise's throat, whether they want to use it or not, and it's usually people from an executive perspective, someone who's not in the day-to-day, who doesn't know the exact problems that they're dealing with. We might have an enterprise deal to, standardize one thing for the whole company, and that doesn't trickle down always the best. They might be forced to use it but not happy about it, and it might not be the best solution to use. So I think it's really great that we're able to test multiple solutions and determine what the best fit is for maybe not the entire company, but maybe just for one market of the company or one specific region of the company. So I think that makes a big difference, having different solutions for different applications. And then another one is not having a standardized workflow. I think in innovation, you think it's loose and free-flowing, and you don't want to be too rigid, which I think that's a fair point. But at the same time, if you're not capturing and collecting data throughout, how do you know what to do at the end? It can kind of like trickle off, and there's no real yes or no result at the end of it. So I think that makes a huge difference as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you discussed about pushing, right? There's maybe like a culture of you need to start using this, and that creates a lot of pushback. So you just described that on one hand, what people are doing wrong a lot of times, they try to push solutions onto the teams, and that doesn't usually work out.
Right.
And at the same time, a lot of times it's just given, maybe the solution's given to the wrong teams or the wrong region or the wrong department, and that ends up making the whole process not work out, and also lack of process in general, overall, right? And if you don't have a process, basically you're saying, you don't know what to do with the solution at the end. And maybe one thing that really stands out here is a lot of companies that I talk to are looking for an all-in-one, right? Just give me one thing, it's gonna solve me all my problems, and I can go to sleep. Why doesn't that work?
Especially in construction, the industry it's changing rapidly, and we have different markets and they all have different needs. And a lot of times, like something that might work for wastewater is not going to work for healthcare. It's client-wise, it's not the same. Project team-wise, it's not the same. The locations of these projects are not the same. The scopes of both of these types of markets they have completely different needs. And you don't really know what each market needs unless you're in the weeds doing the day-to-day part of the operations teams.
Okay, incredible. So now I want to ask you, we see that technology is disrupting the industry. What should companies do now that AI is also entering the mix? Like, what's going to happen here?
AI is really exciting for us. I know everyone is kind of sick of it at this point because we hear it every day. It's in everything that we read, watch. But I think, at least for our industry, it's really, really exciting. We're design build. We have architecture, engineering groups that are they're excited to use AI to help their workflow. I think in the beginning it was a little scary, like AI is going to take over jobs, but now that's definitely not what we get from our people internally. Everyone's really excited to use it. We have a whole group that's dedicated to the design and consulting part of our business, and they're looking for AI solutions, staying ahead of it. We pilot solutions together that are related to AI as far as like generative design. There's some really cool electrical, mechanical platforms out there that help with design. We also are looking at some code review platforms, whether it's like a Revit plugin or you upload your drawings and they tell you what's wrong based on your codes and where you're going to mishap at the permit office potentially. And permit delays are a huge issue in our industry. So we're really excited about a lot of stuff that AI is bringing, especially on the design and engineering side.
Okay. What is the risk of a company ignoring AI from your standpoint?
I think the companies that don't learn how to use it they're gonna fall behind. This is why we've had a group internally dedicated to AI specifically, is because we don't want that to happen. We want our teams at Haskell to be educated, know how to use it, be comfortable with using it, and be good at using it. It only makes what we do day to day better with less work. It takes less time. It's changing the game for sure.
Okay, so how does the human component fit into the innovation strategy?
Yeah, I think this is a really important part that a lot of people don't think about. But I guess a little bit about my story. When I first started at the company, I was given a pilot that had already been kicked off, and I didn't know anybody. I was brand new at the company, but there was about 35 people that were supposed to be part of this pilot that I had to run. I was sending out emails, scheduling meetings. Nobody was responding. Nobody was coming to my calls. And then I started to see names on my Outlook that were the same as the offices that were around me in the office. And it was still kind of coming off of COVID, so not everybody was in the office all the time. But when they were, I'd pop in their office and I'd introduce myself and say, hey, I'm Leah. I'm part of this pilot program. We're really excited about it. And that FaceTime went a huge, huge way. The relationships that you build through this are extremely critical in order for the pilot to go well. I think that's part of why in-person training is so important for the actual vendor side too, because if they're the ones that are guiding you, hand-holding you through how to use the tool, them being there makes all the difference. This industry is built on relationships and trust. So when the project team trusts who's actually helping them solve the problem that they're dying to solve, that's a game changer.
Okay. So you're talking about also building, right, the importance of building a relationship, right, with the actual people from the field, with the different departments. Well, how integral are people, right, that human part of a component to the innovation strategy?
Yeah, it's the whole part of it. I don't think you'd be able to do it without the human element.
So what do you say about the people that are concerned that technology is there to steal their jobs, or it's going to hurt people at the end of the day?
I think they have to realize that it's a tool and it's only going to make what they do better. You're still going to need the human component there to actually be the end-all, kind of sign off, oversee what's happening, but you're able to make a little bit of a higher level decision with more help. You can do a lot more, and I think if you don't realize that and you think it's going to take your job to the point where you don't want to adopt it, you don't want to learn how to use it, you're gonna fall behind.
Okay, so a lot of times I like saying that if something is going to be disruptive, right, to someone, you can't expect them to actually adopt that without them going through something transformational themselves, right? The person also needs to, if you really want to change someone's work, they need to see things differently also, right? And so a lot of times, like what we're seeing in the industry is a lot of companies that kind of don't train, don't give any, aren't working with their managers or working with the people to actually help them go through that transformation. They also need to make a leap. So leads me to the next question, which is, what will the future of the workforce look like? And, okay, how will construction sites operate differently in 20 years from now? It's a big one. It's a loaded question.
It is. This is tough. How I would like it to look.
Okay, yeah, let's go there.
I would love for there to be a lot less people on a job site actually in the facility where the building's happening. It's dangerous, prone to errors. You're not able to predict what you're going to find. So being able to automate as much of that as possible would be incredible. We spend so much time on the front end. We spend insane amount of time building the schedule. We spend even more designing these projects. And then when it comes to being in the field, you might have your 2-week look ahead or what you're supposed to do for that day. But there's a million things that can go wrong. You can't plan, obviously, down to the very second, but being able to automate your hard work from what you've done in the design with your schedules would eliminate a ton of error and risk that happens in the field.
Okay, so from the technology that you're seeing today enter the space, what's a trend that you think is really powerful and is going to be disruptive for companies?
Yeah. Anything related to procurement, I know this is a hot topic. There's a lot of solutions out there. I don't think we've found one that's been incredible yet. It requires a lot of moving parts, a lot of different people with a lot of different information that changes frequently. Once material gets ordered, once material gets shipped, once it gets delivered, where does it go? Again, requires a lot of different people. Subcontractors are keeping some of this information on their side, but maybe the GC doesn't know all of this that's going on. There's just a lack of centralized data for this specific area, and I think if we can solve this, that would be a huge benefit for us for sure.
Okay, so procurement. And to wrap up, okay, what would be your advice to a company that is today thinking of putting together an innovation strategy?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely smart. Like, you need to do it, but do it today. Don't wait, you'll be too late. The space is growing, and it's growing fast. And if your company doesn't have that culture of innovation, you're going to have a really hard time changing workflows down the line.
So really, with talking to George, we spoke about how there's a need for robotics readiness, right? And you're also just describing innovation readiness. If you don't prepare today, it's going to be too late, or it's going to take you a pretty long adoption curve further down the line, right?
Absolutely.
Leah, thank you so much for your time. This has been really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Hey, if you're a regular listener or just as passionate about construction technology as I am, take a moment and hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support us. It lets a platform know that our content matters. And growing the show keeps us motivated to bring our very best to every single episode.